Welcome to The Business Game.
A podcast that moves the needle. Steve, I realized I don't need more hours in the day. I need a second me.
Or you could try Tyler Offshore. They basically build you one.
Even better, they connect businesses with top-tier remote talent, admin, customer service, even SaaS developers.
So you scale your team without scaling your stress.
And they feel like part of your team. No cloning machine required.
Head to tyleroffshore.com. Thanks to Tyler Offshore for supporting The Business Game. Hello and welcome to The Business Game, a podcast that moves the needle. I'm Steve Plummer.
And I'm Kalina Steno.
Before we get started today, make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Today we're joined by Phil Ohren, co-founder of the advertising agency Intender. Hi Phil, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
It's absolute pleasure. Phil, tell us a little bit about yourself and what Intender does.
Tough question. I get asked this a lot, obviously. Look, I started in marketing at the age of 14. I weirdly fell into SEO at a very young age. There's a backstory for that. We might get to it later.
Yes.
And moved to Australia at 19 with my now wife. And essentially, Intender is an advertising company whose mission is to make advertising useful, not annoying. I don't know about you guys, but I hate ads. And I always have. And I think starting a background in intent marketing, which is obviously search, I kind of always had this feeling of why are we doing the ads that are kind of annoying people on a daily basis? Yeah. And so Intender was born.
I think that whole annoying advertising probably resonates quite well, right, yes, with everyone. Mm-hmm. Phil, you use the word intent in what you do, and you use that very deliberately for just so everyone understands what does intent mean and why is it important for marketers and for business leaders to understand that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, we believe that there are only three ways a human being can experience media. And rather than thinking about channels like Google or social media or whatever, we like to flip it around from a person's perspective. And so those three ways you can experience media are, number one, you express intent. So you go to Google or you go to eBay and you say, I need this. The second way is you have interest in something. So again, if you're following a creator that does a certain type of baking, you would have baking interest. And then the last one, which normally doesn't go down too well with certain people in the industry, is interruption or inspiration. And so you're busy doing your life or going about your day and you are being interrupted by an ad on the radio or by a big billboard and so on and so forth. And so Intender was basically designed to sort of put intent marketing first rather than last. More often than not, and the big companies I've worked with over the years like WPP, in search, which was intent marketing, was a tiny little thing on the plan, and yet most of the conversions and actions would come from those. And so our goal was to flip that all around. I hope that helps explain.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess what I'm hearing is it's almost a shorter path to the sale.
In some ways.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah.
I think it's really about trying to work out what the symptoms are that someone might be facing, and helping a brand be part of that as a whole. But in some ways, yes, you could say, I need an M8 bolt for this cupboard, and you would find one and you would buy it. Yeah. But in some cases, if you have 3 kids under 3 and you need a car that's going to fit 3 Australian approved baby seats in the back of it, your journey is a little bit different, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I like that. So is advertising today the hardest it's ever been, or are founders just a bit delusional about attention?
It's in some ways it is and it isn't, and I hate to give that answer. Where it's become really hard, I think, is if you're a business with one message and you're putting it out to the masses, that's become so difficult now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because we've seen fragmentation of like channels. We've seen like communities pop up, and you're trying to show your message for your product in multiple communities, multiple platforms, in multiple times of the day, on in ads that might be on very different platforms. And as a result of that, your message, which is a one-to-many message, has become really difficult. But on the flip side, the many messages to one opportunity has become much bigger, in the sense of you could now, if you wanted to, and you probably should, create messages that are tailored for where they're going to be shown. For example, if you are going to do influencer marketing with 10 influencers, yes, you could have the same message for all of them, but now we're starting to see brands create unique content with those communities, with those people in mind. And so I think, like, from what we're seeing, it's getting easier to do the latter and a lot harder to do the former now. And the former is not getting the cut through that it used to because people are very well trained to say, oh, that's an ad, and it's not serving me right now.
Yeah. So is mass marketing dying? Is that?
I think it's having a bit of a midlife crisis, to be honest, for want of a bit of word.
Well, we've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there for sure. In a sense of, as a singular medium or as a singular message, yes, it's dying. But when you roll up all of your granular messages and combine them, that is now the new mass marketing, I would say.
Right. All right. Let's talk about perceptions today, because what you're talking about is quite a big change, I guess, from traditional marketing.
Yeah.
So I guess what's one of the biggest myths that founders of businesses, small, medium, large, have about advertising that sort of gets under your skin and makes you want to just flip the table and go, oh my God, don't you get it yet?
I think that everything's pay to play is probably, you have to pay money to play in the game. And I think we saw, I go on Facebook now and I don't see my parents and I don't see my friends. I see 5 or 10 ads, most of which are things I don't want. And I think the founders probably need to realise that, we'll probably need to ask them this rhetorical question to themselves. It's like, who's winning here? I don't think it's the people receiving the ads, and I don't think it's them because of ad waste, and therefore it must be the platforms that are winning. And so I think the myth of being paid to play and you need to put $10 in to get $50 out, I would say really need to look long and hard in the mirror on that one and probably go back to what I would call owned and earned media rather than paid media. And so my advice to founders there would be, take a look back at what your product market fit was and your your brand market fit was, and just remember, there might only be a certain amount of people who need your product today. And where are those? And so I like to anecdotally on a piece of paper many times just write down people who have intent, people who have interest, and people I can interrupt. And I start to gather data around, well, how many people, for example, might need a 7-seat SUV today? Well, in the Sunshine Coast, we know there's actually only 300 people looking at any one point in time.
Yeah.
And then people who are interested might go up to around 2,000 to 5,000, and then people who you could reach might be, the entire population of the area. And so many people are going, right, I need to start with that large number of people to tell them I exist. Actually, I kind of call BS on that, and I think you need to start at the other end first and exhaust that kind of narrow audience before going deeper into the wider ones. And I think tradies are actually the best at this.
Yeah.
Tradies often explain what they do. They explain what's exactly on the tin. They put that out there. And if you're a commercial spray painter versus a commercial painter, that often that context is enough to let Google and other platforms work it out for you. Does that answer your question?
So is that a quick follow up there? Is that a useful exercise for founders, for marketing teams within businesses to sit there with a piece of paper or whichever media you're using and nut out those 3 stages of the journey that you mentioned?
I think so. To the point where I probably should write a book about it. Would love your help with that if you have time. But because I think it's, everyone needs to know a little bit about that just to shift their perspective, because otherwise you're competing with the fact that Acast or Spotify or Facebook or Google are all telling you they can reach your dream audience. But of course they all want money to do so. And so I think taking a look back at your marketing plan and dividing it up by the 3 ways I mentioned before, but also, what's paid media, what's owned media, and what's earned media. And just to expand on that a little bit, paid is anything you pay to put out there. Owned media is anything that belongs to you. So technically your website belongs to you, your Google Places page belongs to you, your logo and your assets belong to you. And an earned media, I guess, is anything that anyone says about you. So people talking about you on Reddit is earned media. People's reviews of you is earned media as well. And I'd say an unhealthy mix is probably 10% owned, 20% earned, and the rest paid. I think we should all be aiming to try and get probably a healthy mix of 50% owned and earned and 50% paid. And again, that can be quite daunting for people, I feel.
That's quite a shift. So everyone's clear, what are those three things they should be looking at on a bit of paper?
So first thing is intent So people, how many people could you reach that are expressing exactly what you solve? So good tools for that are like Google Keyword Planner or answerthepublic.com. Any kind of, or keywordtool.io, those kind of things you can put in your service and it will tell you in your area how many people are searching and what questions they're asking. Yep. Interest marketing is more probably where you look at the Facebook Reach Planner, and people who like what you do will show you a range of 10,000 to 150,000. And then from an interruption perspective, that's when you're looking generally at like mass market audience. So things like, I would say like outdoor planners like Cassie, where you can buy billboards and things like that. That will tell you how many people walk past this billboard per day. And again, just getting that down, you'll just see that there's a trade-off between quality and quantity.
And is the trade-off, is that something people struggle with?
I think so. I think so. Because I still struggle with it.
Yeah. How do you know? Is a bit of this much or that much? Or
I think that would probably come down to measurement, but probably the guiding principle with all of this for me is common sense. I feel like so if someone is searching 7-seat SUV under $50,000 and you're a car dealer with 2 7-seat SUVs under $50,000, common sense would prevail. You probably need a Google ad for that, or content marketing or SEO to promote those products. Whereas, does that answer your question?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, cool.
It's probably a good segue for organic marketing. So you sort of touched on that, and I think we all feel the same. I'm sure our listeners are nodding their head when you go onto Facebook or Instagram. Most of it's ads. You don't even really see the people you know anymore. Do you think that organic reach is dying? And like from your vantage point, what's actually changed in the last 3 years?
Do I think it's dying? Yes, I do. Unfortunately, when any company or platform floats, the shareholders want their return, I normally see that decay happening. With nearly everything that floats, it seems to get ruined that way. But I think, you can have even people who own communities like, car communities and things like that. Even the admin will post something and they struggle to reach them from an own, from an organic perspective. And I don't know. I mean, I know what caused it. I don't know what the motivator was other than ad revenue. But when, what was the second part of the question again? Sorry.
Just what's actually changed in the last 3 years?
What's changed in the last few years? I feel that the number of people using the platforms, or the number of ad customers, has obviously grown significantly, and as a result, the inventory available to sell to those customers is obviously there's a bit of a fight over that, right? Sure. Back in sort of 2010, when we were all trying to work out who owns social media in the media and marketing land, there was creative agencies, PR agencies, and media agencies kind of squabbling. I feel like media agencies won in the end, but now what I'm seeing is that the PR side of things are starting to claw it back, which I think is quite interesting, because if we fast forward a few years time, we may not even have websites or platforms in some cases where AI wants to understand what the best answer is to my unique question. It's probably going to look at earned media recommendations more so than what paid media ones are. Like, no one serves ads to AI. Right, at the moment. So how it's making its decisions at the moment are going to be owned and earned related, where from an owned media perspective, the AI is going to look at what the brand says about themselves, and then it's going to look from an earned media perspective to validate it. And so I do feel that PR is probably going to come back with a bit of a vengeance soon. And quite rightly, because they've had a tough decade or two. And so again, that probably gives rise to the fact that founders need to be aware of people pleasing, I think, and specifically doing things just for the sake of a review. But I think we may see, review ransom things happening more so. I'm already seeing businesses get, 50 one-star reviews bombed on them overnight from someone and then held out ransom. Even a friend of mine who runs a successful agency in Sydney, he got kind of attacked by that and took 2 weeks for him to get rid of that stuff.
Wow.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how the context of those reviews and earned media are dealt with, and then more importantly, kind of addressed. Because back to your original question around kind of, is it dying? I think, do you find you're being asked more or less by your family or friends for recommendations at the moment than you were 5 years ago?
Ooh, I haven't really thought about it. I think I'm probably being asked more.
Yeah, I feel like I am as well. And I
Yeah.
think even though we've got AI as a co-pilot, we're sort of being, there's still an element of, there's a new BS detector I think we're all creating as humans at the moment.
Totally.
Yeah.
Actually, I was asking AI something the other day for recommendations for a gift idea. And I looked on it and I was like, well, that's not actually accurate. There's actually a place closer that, and so I did my own, knowing that it was there, but I just wanted to see what it came up with. So it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. What about you, Steve?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that. Because I'm thinking, oh, gee, I don't really know. I probably don't talk to enough people maybe to get asked recommendations. But yeah, I got nothing.
That's okay.
I got nothing.
No
I don't know.
But word of mouth is so valuable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think word of mouth, that mouth though is digitized too now, and that's the issue. But it's also the opportunity. And I think how we're creating a knowledge graph at the moment that coincides with a couple of others that we've got. So we've got a knowledge graph. So just to explain a knowledge graph, it's basically it's how large language models understand and ingest almost the context of something.
Okay.
And essentially you can have a knowledge graph about your product's features.
Okay.
You could have a knowledge graph about the demand of your people. Again, what they're saying in keywords would be a knowledge graph. And then we're also kind of trying to make a knowledge graph at the moment of what people are saying about the product. And where those three come together, that is the magic, I think, moving forward. And so I believe we're moving very quickly into what I would call context marketing, where it is greater than content marketing. And I think that's kind of where we will gradually go over the next few years. You could also say triage marketing, which is a build upon symptom-based marketing, where the triage person at the hospital was the most important person you saw, but you didn't realize at the time because they're the ones who kind of decided whether you were critical or whether you were going to sit outside for 7 hours. Yeah, right. And they're the person who sort of decides whether you're going to see, potentially see the specialist straight away or a doctor straight away. I think we've got an interesting few years ahead. Yeah,
and that actually leads me to the question around these ads aren't working or my ads don't work anymore. I mean, what you've explained there is a massive shift in what's happening, and it's almost like, I was going to say traditional ads, but online ads haven't been around that long. But so what is it that is making ads less effective? Is it the creative? Is it the targeting? Is it that whole, as you were explaining, that whole space? People are just not paying attention anymore.
I think there are a few culprits, and not to point the finger at any one particular brand, but there are a few examples where the first time I heard the ad, it was amazing. I was like, this is great. And then seconds later, particularly in programmatically served advertising like podcast or in podcast ads that are not by the creator, they're by the algorithm, I'm hearing it again, and then I'm hearing it again. And I'm like, whoa, this is one ad break and I heard the same thing 3 times. Yes. That genuinely made me go from loving the brand to hating them, even though I know it wasn't their fault. And I feel like for me, the main thing that is annoying is often frequency. Yes. And the platforms, unfortunately, are the ones potentially making that decision. To the point where we've had a few clients lately where they've made a brilliant creative and we've insisted they watch it 10 times consecutively to see how they feel after they've had their own breakfast served to them 10 times.
Wow. Okay.
The response is quite mixed. Some people are like, yep, it's great. Fine with it.
That's the ego.
Cool. And then some people are like, oh yeah, how are we going to stop that? And I'm like, I know, right? And those are the brands that are a good fit for us because they understand the responsibility. And to be honest, it's actually a mental health responsibility. I agree. I think who decided that reels just repeat? Like who made that call? I have no idea who they were. I would wish they didn't. I had a dear friend who was quite senior at Facebook for a while, and I asked her that question. A few weeks later, she had moved on to Apple, and then she replied, and she said, "Yeah, it's one of the reasons why she wanted to move on." And again, it comes back down to a brilliant thing we say in Queensland, which is just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And I think to come back to the question of like, is it the creative, is it the media, or is it the targeting? It is a mix of the three. I think the creative from a client perspective is an owned asset, and I know they've taken the time to make something good, but I think more often than not, it's the platform or the way that it's served in paid media that is bringing it down.
Yes.
And I think you have to ask yourself this question as a founder as well, right? You know, if you were to spend $1,000, would you rather spend $1,000 to speak to 20 interested people, or $1,000 to reach 1,000 uninterested people? More often than not, people are going to pick the former. But I think paid media is very much the latter.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you do want both.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just an interesting takeaway for everyone listening. That is not a bad exercise to do, right? Watch your own ads 10 times in a row and see how, and be very mindful of how you feel after that exercise. So if someone does that after listening to you and they go, oh, actually I don't feel that great. What's an obvious fix for that?
I think number one is probably break down the ad into its parts, into its components, and again work out, is this an upper funnel ad that is trying to drive, a reminder to people that you exist? If so, you probably want to do something that's a bit more entertaining and a bit more like, culturally, like even potentially aligned to memes. Like again, if you want to be top of mind, stop selling them all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if you're lower funnel and you can't, and if you're lower funnel and you sort of know a bit more about them, you've got them to balance the how are you going to show them that you care and that they are important to you without coming across as creepy.
Yeah.
So when retargeting advertising came out, I was so excited at first, and it worked really well at first.
Yes.
And I'd say it still kind of does work okay. It's particularly in e-commerce. Like it's quite handy sometimes when you see the thing you forgot about and you're like, oh, that's that product. Yeah, great.
Yes.
But then there was a Batuta Advocate article a while ago that was like...
Love them. Oh my gosh. They are my favorite. That's where I get all my news. No.
Oh God, where's this going now, right?
There was man buys koala mattress to stop ads. And I think, again...
And that doesn't stop them either. They text
potentially
you.
not.
No.
Can neither confirm nor deny. But the point there was, it's not koala's fault. It potentially is the platform itself and the parameters that have been set up there that can be an issue. So I think the next thing to do is to probably look at your targeting, look at your frequency, and do a test of halving that frequency and see what happens. If your click-through rate goes up, that means people are more inclined to want to click it.
Yeah.
Right? And so try and find those signals that are suggesting you're going back in the right direction again.
That's such good, because I'm really glad you've explained this to me, because the retargeting ads I understand, but I've got a skincare brand that I absolutely love. I am already their customer. I already spend a lot of money doing that, and I get hit with their ads on Facebook all the time, and I'm like, you're driving me nuts, and then they're texting me and they're emailing me, and it feels that resistance starts to come in. And same with Koala. Like I bought a couch from them like a few years ago. I still get texts and ads, like, and now that I'm talking about it, I'll probably get slammed with more, it just...
Potentially. But like, how does that make you feel? Like,
frustrated.
Yeah, and how does that... Is your likelihood to purchase from them again going up or down?
No, down. Yeah, it's going the absolute opposite. And like, I really love the founder of the skincare brand. But I get really frustrated. I'm like, I almost want to cancel my subscription purely because you're irritating me. And I'm glad you've said it's not her fault, because it makes sense.
They probably don't know.
No.
The platforms have what we call in the industry like a walled garden, where they will tell us enough for us to continue spending. But actually, ad fraud is at the highest it's been ever at the moment. And the fraud that we're seeing is repeated ad shows, clicks from click farms. There was a time in Google Ads when you could exclude Linux devices and things like that, and you can't do that anymore. And again, who's winning? It's those guys, not us.
So unethical.
Phil, can I go back to a point you made before about showing you care without being creepy? Can you give me an example of what that means?
I feel like it's, if I already know that you want a 7-seat SUV, I'm not going to put a sedan in front of you.
Okay.
Or in some cases, another way of doing it is we've introduced this thing called zero-party data, where we are actually asking the customer in a triaging fashion what's keeping them up at night, and then and then giving them the product selection or rationale for them to choose themselves. And so the ultimate way I wish that we all as an industry would do that is that, again, instead of taking people to a landing page where they've got to go in and work it out themselves, we just say, what are you trying to achieve with your next car? What is it you want? Do you want it to be cheap and affordable but still good?
Yeah.
Do you want it to be, is it an ego hit and you need to tell everyone you're great because you're driving a luxury car brand? One skincare brand we've worked with, we help them with what is essentially just a quiz to try and help triage the process so that we can match the product to them. Doing that in paid ads is getting better, and it's actually, if you're trying to do a product for oily skin that is organic, then how you do that in your targeting is you kind of make sure that those two words were present in your keyword set, right?
Yeah.
On Facebook, it gets a little bit harder because there's no default audience for organic and oily skin intender there, right?
Yeah.
And so I think then you need the ad itself, the creative itself, to do that. Instead of promoting the product, I'd probably be doing ads for the quiz, saying find out what skincare type you are, and we'll match that to you. Yeah. So I think selling without selling is what I'm trying to say there. Sometimes not selling the product is the best thing to do. To sell the outcome or to sell the engagement is the right thing to do, I think.
Yeah, okay.
On that, talking about bad creative, what's the cost of bad creative?
Oh, the cost of bad creative. Financially, I feel you can spend, we used to spend millions on a brilliant TVC that would go for 30 seconds. And I think Australia used to make fantastic ads. I think there was a Carlton draft ads with maybe 200,000 men running across a field. And they all looked like, they were very entertaining.
Yes.
And at the time, they knew that ad would be shown in break during sport, and those people would be at the pub, and then they would talk about it, and then they would buy.
Yes.
Due to media fragmentation and all of those kind of things right now, the way we consume sport and stuff has gone fragmented, and so the cost of creative that's one to many now is that the context has changed so much on when it's consumed that it doesn't have the same impact. So first cost of bad creative for me is that you've built a creative to try and fit into 1,000 mediums when we used to just do that for one or two.
Yeah.
And so that can then feel disjointed. Another example of that is you might be listening to the radio and you get an ad saying, do you suffer from back pain? You're like, no, I'm fine. And then you've got to listen to that for another 15 or 20 seconds, right? And so the other cost is then brand consideration. And as you mentioned earlier as well, that repetition of that can even erode the brand, the brand love that you had originally. And so I think the solution here really is probably taking a open-minded look to making granular creatives. If you know there's an audience that wants 7-seat SUVs, do a 7-seat creative. Explain why there's a 7-seat message. If you have an audience that wants oily skin remedies, then do an oily skin related message. And so I think what I'm hoping AI will help us do is create almost unique creatives for unique people in unique journeys. I had a bit of a moment sort of 3 months ago where I was like, I don't know if I can make advertising useful, not annoying, which is our vision.
Yes.
And I really should have been really careful about what I wished for 6 years ago, because I think AI is the mechanism for that. And I really actually kind of hope it collides with blockchain, not cryptocurrency, I want to make that clear, but with blockchain in the form of accountability, transparency, and one-to-one marketing, i.e., I would love it if we, the people, could sort of go, hey, I'm going to tell the market I want a black SUV, and I'm open-minded to the following brands. You pitch me. You tell me. You give me that. I'll give you my context. Here's a little bit of money in escrow to prove that I'm legit. You come to me now. And I think we're getting closer with that with agentic search. My AI people will talk to your AI people, and I can continue hanging out with the kids.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Scary though.
It is scary.
So what's the role of PR? What's the role of creative? What's the role of strategy and all of that?
Yeah, there's a lot of power there.
Yeah.
Can go one way or the other.
Yeah. I was going to, you've probably preempted or perhaps even answered. I was going to ask you about what you see as the next big shift in media. You know, something that is going to blindside most businesses, most founders, most leaders. Is it that, or is there maybe one or two other things you see coming down the pipeline? Because that was very much what you just shared then was left
I feel
field.
like that's kind of number one for me is like that again. If you're a big retailer right now, you've got to start preparing for no site commerce. Where
What does that mean?
No site commerce being you don't even go on the e-com website or the store. You just go to a landing page in Atlas browser and put your card details in and it turns up. You know, I think there will be a portion of people who don't care about the fluff and are going to trust that their AI knows them better than they know themselves.
Wow.
And as a result, what's the point in me looking at scrolling through your list of products and your offers? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I do feel that that's front and center for me. And I think it's something we all need to think about. Because you do that when you go to Coles or Woolies and you buy something on the store. More often than not, you're making a decision based on the brand you remember. And one of the ways that I always like to remind people about brand marketing is when you go to a foreign country and you go to their 7-Eleven, you know brand marketing works when you don't recognize anything on that shelf.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the way forever. And the new way, I think, will be that purpose-based purchases, context-based purchases of the call to action on GPT is how can I help you today? And then if you go onto a lot of retailers at the moment, it's like search our products. And there's a big difference between those two things.
Yeah.
So what or are there? It's what are one or two things that businesses can do to prepare for that, or position themselves at least to prepare for that coming down the pipeline?
It's a good question. I think know what it is you really sell. This is something I've been saying for a while. Like, a florist sells flowers, but a great florist sells hope and appreciation. And I think, Steve, having read your book, I know you know that really well as well.
I was going to say, come on, it's got to be more than that. Come on, man.
But like, I think, really, I think advice to founders and business owners as well is like, what is it you really sell? In many cases, it's a good night's sleep for people. Yeah. But like, break that down into why it's a good night's sleep. Taking a Panadol. What is the Panadol? It's to get rid of the headache, but like it's also so you can carry on with your life. And that's why the creative message for those kind of things in countries where you're allowed to advertise this kind of product has always been around that kind of freedom aspect or a better version of you. And I think if you think about ads today, they've always been trying to sell us a better version of us, but they never knew what the version of us we wanted to be. They tried to tell us what it should be. Yeah. And so, and we were so good at this in the 60s, 70s and 80s. And if you've only got to look at an infomercial on TVSN to see the scene where it goes black and white, which is old you, and then back into full color, which is like new you, and then call to action, buy my thing. So with agentic AI, where it's AI to AI, I think context will be the king on both sides of that fence. So the context of me, and for the seller, the context of what you can solve.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. AI to AI.
What are we going to do with all our time?
No idea. Hopefully spend more time with the kids.
I know, I'm hoping our time goes into good things.
Wow. My daughter actually made her own little AI app recently called don'tknowwhattodo.com. And the problem she wanted to solve was she was just like, I don't know what to do right now in terms of play. And so she's just...
How old is she?
She's 4. And so,
are you kidding me?
Her and I did it on Lovable, and she kind of just spoke to it and says, I want like a list of things I could do, but she wanted it to know what to do when it was sunny or when it was rainy or when it was snowing, which it doesn't here, obviously. Yeah. And now you can just press the button and it suggests those things, which is really cool. And that's when I think I had a bit of an aha moment. I was like, wow, there's context there.
That's incredible.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to see what she does. She's going to be in here soon.
Yeah.
4 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
Gosh.
So in terms of the short-term video. So that seems to be what everyone's chasing at the moment.
Yeah.
But what's overlooked? What's the overlooked platform or format that's about to blow up, do you think?
This is a tricky question because I feel like a lot of the mediums are already with us.
Okay.
And I think the things that are going to blow up is like how we collide them with other mediums, I think.
Okay.
So like audio becoming long form and like democratized from platforms, and obviously, that's been really good. Like anyone can do a podcast, anyone can do a YouTube video.
Yes.
I think those mediums are well and truly here to stay, to the point where you're kind of judged if you're not doing them now. And I think one that's going to come back though is PR. But in terms of a new format, so to speak, I actually think it's going to be the AI to AI thing, unfortunately, to give you that one back again.
No.
But there's not going to be any glamour in it, in the way that being a search guy for 26 years was the least sexy role in media. But the problem with search was it was always seen as not being sexy, yet it was seen as critical. And so I do think the people I see on my LinkedIn feed who are excited about AI, I'm looking at those people going, you hated search when we were talking about all this stuff, but yet here you are now as an intent marketer in AI. I feel, and I agree, SEO is dying for the 15th time.
Okay, I was going to ask you that one. Yeah, is it true? Is it true? Is SEO dead?
It kind of is, but for the 15th time. But SEO was an intent marketing medium, and intent marketing is so hot. It's just growing every second.
Yeah.
And so I think the word SEO kind of implied we're going to hack our way to the top. I think with intent marketing, we've got to earn our way to the top. And we earn our way to the top with product fit, with market fit, with earned media reviews. And that's the key part of the algorithm for AI. Yeah. Can you lie to it? Yeah, of course you can. Should you, if you want? But I think people will start to see through that soon.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And is your prediction about PR making a comeback, is that, I don't know, pushback probably too strong a word, but is that like a pushback against all the AI stuff and making things more human even?
I think the PR making a comeback is essential to the AI making a rational decision from what is an emotional prompt.
Right.
Right. And again, all media and creative has always been an emotional play.
Yes.
And once you've made up your mind emotionally, it's very hard to rationalize your way out of that. I feel that PR is necessary there because it will get the exposure that we are lacking, as to one of your earlier questions, in the mass marketing side of things. We are lacking a public service announcement style reach as brands and even as governments, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You may have already covered this, but I'm curious about who's winning the media game at the moment and why.
I actually think Bluey's winning at the moment.
Bluey's everywhere.
Bluey, I've got a couple of others in mind. I think Bluey's winning because the content is just so fabulous. In series 3 of Bluey, I think I cried on half the episodes.
Yep.
The cricket one, for sure. And I'm pretty sure straight after that episode, we went out and played cricket, right? That's how powerful that content was.
Wow.
To the point that, the love for that government-funded piece of content is amazing, that it's actually been quite contentious to commercialise it as well. As we saw the Hammer Barn thing, which is, clearly related to a huge retailer over here, and that retailer was selling Hammer Barn products and then kind of got into hot water as a result of that. But like as a medium, Bluey has a lot of power, I think, to market, to sell without selling.
Yeah.
And what Bluey kind of sells is just the belief that we're going to be okay and the world will keep spinning, and to look within instead of looking without. The next one, these guys have killed it forever, but I think Red Bull have gotten so good at content and being a passion brand, and again owned and earned, just like Bluey, where they started with the product. They've aligned that to lifting things that we're passionate about, such as sport. And then as a result, when you're on that shelf and you see other competitors, you pick Red Bull if it was right for you. And if you don't like Red Bull, you don't. And that's fine, I think. Cool.
Yeah, so what can businesses take from that? Because it's easy to dismiss that going, well, I'm not Red Bull and I'm not a cartoon. So what can businesses take from those two examples, for instance, or another that I can then put into my business and help me win a bit better? Or a bit
I think just authenticity, really.
Okay.
And again, I'd love to have a chat with anyone who feels like that, because I'd like to pontificate that question because...
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, like what does it mean to be authentic? I think it's like, bringing it all back down to why you're in business. Again, are people going to follow, if you'd have asked me this question 5 years ago, are people going to follow a tradie? I would have said no. And actually it's quite the opposite now.
Yeah.
People love following the person behind the business, not so much the business. And I think like Tim the lawnmower man, when he did those transformations and went out and did social good, I think being authentic and showing people that you're not just in it for the money is probably the most attractive thing right now.
Yes.
Because everyone else seems to be all about the money. And I don't know if you saw that meme recently, which was like, boomers were like, we've got all the money, and then the next generation were like, we're going to earn the money, and then people today are like, where's the money? I think authenticity comes from impact, and I think seeing people, business owners getting out there and practicing what they preach or talking about what they're passionate about is probably the best way of doing that.
Wow, I certainly wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't either. That's where I came from.
Okay, so push back against that. I'm not very good on camera. I don't want to...
Same.
What? How do they then win that? How do they then do that more?
I think you've got to give it a go. I think if you're not very good on camera, you're probably going to be similar to myself and be probably a people pleaser. And I think there's this year for me, I've finally really gotten a lid on that, I think. And I think it's just if you're really passionate about what you do and you've got something to add value, what people think of that should be the last thing you should be worried about. It really should be.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's that just taking the plunge and exposing yourself. That's kind of what authenticity is, right? You're sort of stepping and showing everybody, and whoever that is, who you really are.
Yeah, like some of the best reels that I do see, love them or hate them, they're more often than not, they're either people telling jokes, or they're people explaining how to do something yourself.
Yep.
And those for me are just huge at the moment. Again, more often than not, tradies giving advice on, how to spot a cowboy or how to try and do it yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
And the trade-off for them is followership. But does that followership actually have a business impact? I'd say it does in a long roundabout way. But back to the earlier question of a lot of founders addicted to paid media, we're almost paying to bypass all of that authenticity as a shortcut for right now.
Yes.
And so I think bringing it all back to, you probably should have a little bit of paid, but you should also have kind of a little bit of owned and earned. And again, talking to your category on skincare as well, there's only, you're not going to follow a brand just because you like the look of their package. You're going to, you like the stories that have helped the women and men that use the product.
Yes, yeah.
Or the deep down goal of the brand, which is to try and find your inner self, or to, bring that to the surface, or to be organic, or whatever it is. And so again, probably founders need to take a step back, ask the question, what would this look like if it was simple? What could you give the world as your legacy? And maybe start ideating around there, I feel.
Yeah. Well, the founder from that does a really great job of exactly what you just explained. She sort of jumps on there and offers free, low tox information of lifestyle stuff, and doesn't ask for anything in return. And it's not always related to skincare, but it's still in alignment with her audience. And it's just sharing, and it's free, and it's off, and it feels like you feel so connected. I think that's the only reason I'm not super But so it's super powerful, and then you want to engage more and support more, and then you tell more people.
I think those founders as well who are sort of in that position, they probably should take a month off paid media and see what happens.
Yeah.
Especially after Black Friday as well. I think this year we saw CPCs on average go up 40%. We saw CPMs go up 35%. So, the cost to reach people went up quite a bit. The inventory available, I don't think I was 45% more active during Black Friday. Maybe I was, but this year I was like, you know what? I actually don't really care. I'm not going to go and scurry around, because I'm sort of the belief of that product was that price 6 months ago.
Oh, totally.
In some cases, and most of the chatter this year was about the transparency around the amount of inventory that was on discount. And I think the ACCC probably got quite a few complaints to go through at the moment, where, the business who went and played that game with the cost of paid media, they also had to lower the cost of their product. And like, if you're doing that just to get a burst of revenue, maybe that's okay. Or if you're doing that to get an email marketing list of new customers, that's okay. But then, the next few months, that person who got that deal is going to get, they'll get their comeuppance. Nothing's for free, I don't think, right?
No.
And so, I don't know. We had a few clients do it this year. I had 2 clients go, we're not interested in doing Black Friday this year. And I was like, it's good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Actually, there's a mattress brand that I really love. And they go, we don't do Black Friday. And that's always been their thing. Like, our prices are our prices. You're never going to miss out on a deal. Like, this is it. And I buy my mattresses from them because I'm like, I like that. That's sticking
totally.
it. Yeah.
How many mattresses do you go through? Like
No. I'm like, well, if I recommend people, it was time for an upgrade, and I saw that. I was like, I love that. And I don't complain. I moved.
All right, move on then.
Anyway,
let's move on.
Let's move back.
All right, Phil, can we talk about your business? And because you run a very successful agency, and you've got some big clients that you work with, and household names in many cases. On that journey, because you mentioned that stop being a people pleaser, which I find it's almost incongruent to the success that you've had in business, right? So, other than I guess that internal bottleneck, what are some other bottleneck things you've had to break through to get your business really moving and give you the momentum you want?
I think, I bootstrapped Intender, which was good. It happened organically. We started off with Honda as our founding client, which was so lucky to have that.
How did you get them, by the way? Was Bootstrap big corporate account?
Well, basically, the corporation I worked with before had a conflict of interest in that market, and that client I just started. They just committed to doing the strategy, and then I decided to leave. We had a lot of baby making challenges, and we would should we stay in Sydney and do IVF, or should we go to Noosa and try it? And moved to Noosa, 3 kids under 3. So that was like, whoa, okay. But they had sort of said, they'd been with us through that hell, like this corporation, and they were like, Phil, we think you should go with Honda. We'd like to release them to you if you're interested. You don't have to give us anything. I was like, wow. Like crazy. So definitely like a 1 in a million opportunity. But you asked and I'm telling. So we were very lucky with that. And for a while I was kind of just working on that brand. And then people had heard I'd left, and then people were starting to ask for opinions on owned and earned. And I've been building some technology that can help you understand what people want. But I think what was the question again, sorry?
Oh, the bottlenecks. What's been the biggest bottleneck you faced?
I was the bottleneck. That was it. So I think having kids, again, was tricky. But neither of us got maternity or paternity really, because we were working for ourselves. Yes. And then I think the biggest reality was like, wow, I'm starting to get spread very thinly. And so finding people who were as curious as I was, or more better at things than I was. But the real aha moment I think came sort of 18 months in, when I was like, now it's time to really sort of try and step away from some of these things. I'd realised I was a people pleaser, and when I say me being the bottleneck, me people pleasing everyone was probably the hardest thing to realise. Where I would say yes and work it out later, and I'd probably deliver, but I think I've realised sort of 6 years on, the body kept the score. And I think that I'm so glad I did build a team when I did. I think at the time, starting HQ in Noosa was a great idea, and we got lots of young talent as well, which was good. But when we started to get sort of senior talent in, then things started to get a lot easier as well, and a lot more kind of process orientated. So the other blocker I think would have been process. As a naturally curious, neurospicy person, always been a bit adverse to process, and so having people do that for me, and giving them the autonomy was probably the most important thing, I think, in terms of a roadblock that I had to smash through.
Would you say that that was a time where there was a moment where things almost broke? I imagine having 3 kids under 3 would have been circling that.
A couple of times.
Yeah? Okay. Was there one that you could sort of tease out for us and talk about how you stabilized and turned it around?
I think we went for like maybe nearly 2 years without a single client loss, and then all of a sudden we lost like 10 in a quarter, and we were like, whoa, what's happening?
What's happening?
I felt I'd been rug pulled.
Yeah.
And I think what had happened there was our warmth of intent wasn't scaling.
Okay.
And we may have not been aware at the time that us recommending ideas was because we were so thinly spread, the ideas that were coming out of us were very like kind of top line and might even be coming across as urgent, that then again we might have started being annoying as a result.
Right.
And so I think realizing that the warmth of intent was the commodity that was kind of why the clients liked us over everyone else.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of the biggest realizations for us. And so to solve that, again, we went on a bit of a hiring spree of senior people who kind of fit that bill. Because again, we realized, what we sell is, it's not ads. We sell like a good night's sleep. We sell the removal of risk. And so how in every meeting we have with the client are we doing those things? And having a bit of a come to Jesus moment around that reality of it's got to be authentic, and it's, we've got to make time to build the relationships with the people, because if we don't have those relationships and the invoice goes over to them, they're like, why are we paying these guys this much money? And that was probably where I thought things had broke.
Yeah.
What you mentioned a key phrase there, warmth of intent. Can you explain what that means?
So I learned this from a guy called Jay Tinkler, and he basically, I believe Jay's from more of a creative background, and I think he sort of helped me work on the idea of like, what is it I really sell? He had an example of a deck builder that came and oiled his deck and came back a few weeks later with a tiny little touch-up pot and says, I've been thinking about your deck. Here is a little sample pot. If you see any blotches, just do that. Just do this. I would say that is a classic case of warmth of intent. You showed you cared. You went out of your way to come back. Whereas conversely today, texting you and telling you to buy the product again, I would argue is the exact opposite of that.
Yes.
Another example he had of that was on his birthday, he got a letter in the mail from his physio. It was like, happy birthday, Jay. Here's $50 off your next thing. Some people may like that.
Which you hadn't even
Jay.
booked, by the way, right? Didn't even have the ache or the pain, but...
So, I mean, the difference between those two examples was one was not asking anything commercially of them. And so that built, credit in the bank account. Whereas the other one was like, I'm going to use your birthday to promote my business.
Yeah.
And it was the exact opposite. And I think warmth of intent, warmth of intent is so difficult because even ads don't work for us as an agency. Like we've tried bidding on stuff. It doesn't work because the warmth of intent isn't there.
Yeah.
And what does work for us is going out for a lunch and account-based marketing and leaning into problems and helping people with them with no expectation of gratitude straight away. That's what works for us.
Yeah.
And again, I think many founders and business owners remember when you're pressing go live on Facebook with your paid ads or Google, just remember what you're buying and what you're actually foregoing in many cases is the warmth of intent.
Yeah, so true.
Interesting phrase, right? And I think the challenge for everyone is then, well, how are we showing warmth of intent?
Yeah.
And then how can we do it, or how can we even do it better? And from a service point of view, a service to the client, but also a business building tool.
And it's quite funny as well because we're an intent and interest marketing company
as
well. It's like, how do we do warmth of intent in ads? Again, sometimes the best ad in Google is the one that was the one that was different, the one that was the complete opposite of everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're getting close to the end.
That's okay.
But
Yeah.
I could talk for hours. I'm so invested in this conversation. What system, structure, or hire made the single biggest difference in your business?
Oh, GM. 100%. Having a GM, it took us a couple of times to get it right, but having someone who completely had all my blind spots, and then making a decision-making framework that gave myself, the managing director, and our GM autonomies in the right areas was the most important thing. I've got this lovely little matrix, which is just an Excel table now, that shows us who's accountable, who needs to be informed about X, Y, or Z. And it's just really good because my business partner is my wife, and she came from a finance background at Ogilvy as well, and I literally have no idea how to do our job, and she would feel the same about me, but there was still a big gap between us, and the GM really helped us with that, I think. So that was when I think we'd gone from being an adolescent to more of an adult.
Yeah, right. And I've got to ask, who's the boss?
Who's the boss?
Yeah.
We all are.
Well, let's move on.
It depends. No, I think I actually think GM Zoe ultimately is the one that really has steadied the ship and has helped liberate my creativity as a result. So.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Can we lean into your wisdom, Phil, a little bit just before we do start to wrap up?
Sure.
If someone's a couple of years behind you in Intender, 2 or 3, 4 years behind where you're at, and they want to get to where you're at, what's a cheat code, a piece of wisdom you've got to help them go to another level?
I think know what you sell. If I knew if I knew then what I know now, I would have dialed in more into that. I thought I'd cracked it when we came up with our mission, vision, and values, and they're still good, so to speak. But I think really breaking down what symptoms you solve, and probably getting to a list of 20. Is really what you should be doing.
Wow.
I would not just stopping at 2 or 3, keep going deeper and keep going deeper. Like Simon Sinek's 5 Whys, I use that every day.
Wow. Okay.
And asking that of each symptom and in each question. And again, you can even express warmth of intent with your client by doing that. And being human and coming across as human as a result, which again is going to be a very rare commodity in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, rapid fire time. What do you reckon, Kalina?
Let's do it.
All righty,
Sure.
so here we go. So to get to know the person behind the microphone a little bit better, Phil, we're going to fire 10 questions at you in a short space of time and get you to answer a sentence or less. And they're going to come thick and fast. So you ready?
Go.
All right, drum roll, please. Here we go. So what was your first job?
Paperboy.
What's your coffee order?
Latte.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Office or work from home?
Office.
Early riser or night owl?
Early riser.
One piece of tech you couldn't live without?
Ooh, one piece of tech I couldn't work without. The Wi-Fi.
That's almost not fair. Alrighty. Your current go-to productivity hat?
Productivity hack?
Yes. I think I said hat, didn't I? It was hack.
Yeah. Actually, daily gratitude.
Ooh, I like that. Okay.
Very quickly, can I wedge how do you do that?
3 things I'm grateful for in the morning and 3 things I'm grateful for at night.
You write them down, or is it just said to self? Or?
Just in a little list of ever-growing gratitude.
Yeah. Oh, that's powerful. A business book or podcast that you would recommend?
I love Modern Wisdom.
Okay.
Okay. Best investment you've ever made, money or time?
That's got to be Bitcoin. Because it's both, I think.
Yeah, and you are a bit of a fanboy of your Bitcoin.
A little bit.
Yeah. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you do?
Be a veterinarian.
Oh, wow.
There you go. I love that.
And one of our signature questions, I guess, Phil, is that if business truly is a game, what does winning mean for you?
Leaving a legacy for the future generations, I would say.
Fantastic. Phil, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure. Love the nuggets that you dropped, the actionable steps. That was fantastic. So just to wrap up, where can people find more information about you and about Intender?
Well, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Just search Phil Ohren. There's only one in the world. And then email me or contact me via intender.com.au.
All right, fantastic. All right, that's all we've got time for. Wherever you're listening, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to The Business Game.
If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected.
A big thank you to our major sponsor, Tyler Offshore, for powering today's episode.
And join us again on the next episode of The Business Game,
A podcast that moves the needle.